Hi, everyone, and welcome to another episode of Unpacking Organizations, where Shradha and I unravel and unpick and discuss everything about org design and workforce planning with phenomenal guests. And we have a lot of fun, and we also talk about the weather, as is our want. So, hi, Shradha, how are you doing?
I'm doing very well from a very wet New Jersey, but I like it because it's good for the grass. Because I feel that the grass is always greener on the other side, so I'm happy my grass will become green.
Unpacking Organizations, the Practitioners Podcast. Sponsored by Orgvue.
Welcome, Badr Ait Ahmed, right? Am I pronouncing your name correctly, Badr?
Perfectly.
Badr, welcome to our show. Welcome to the episode of Unpacking Organizations. And would love to hear more about all the amazing things that you do in your work and have an amazing career trajectory as people analytics and strategy roles. And right now, you're founder of your own organization, which is Talent Insights 360. So we're very excited to have you here, and we would love to know more about you as a person, you as a professional. So let's start. Let's roll the dice, as you said.
Thanks a lot for this warming introduction. Uh, Badr, born and raised in Morocco, uh, I went to France to finish my degrees. And here I am, more than 20 years in Canada, a proud Canadian from Montreal. Uh, the same thing, if I have to talk about my experience, it's like a journey. Just the studies. I start in science, finish in law, and after here I am in people analytic.
That's fascinating. So you went from science to law to people analytics. That's a first.
and uh, and also in my experience, the same thing. I started in my airline in finance. I went through operations, managing workforce planning, flight attendant, and I end up in HR. It's like always, it's a journey. I go with the wind. It's not I'm going the wind without no direction, but just I'm somebody's passion. So when I see value, I move from trust path to go uncharted territory and discover whatever I have to discover. And here I am, 20 years, summarizing all my journey in my new organization, Talent. Do the 360. It's like I I was in the other side. If I am talking workforce planning, I was doing workforce planning. It was in finance, I was doing. It's like I can talk. I was not by. I'm just preaching. I was sitting the other side of the table. I have the emotion that goes with the job beyond to do the job, the stress to take the decision, the responsibility, and everything. That's my. If I have to summarize.
But before when we were chatting, we were talking about headcount planning versus workforce planning. And I think a lot of our listeners, and at least a lot of people out in the world, probably get confused and probably think workforce planning is headcount planning. Headcount planning, how many heads do I need over time? So, how are they different?
I will, Shadra, I will take your example about the grass. Like a planning is cutting the grass. It's repetitive and short value versus workforce planning is planting a tree. It's patient but lasting value for organization. Um, the organization that does workforce planning, they just finished or they are finishing now. They know what I'm talking about. It's like each year there is a rush, uh, but there is no build up. Next year they come back and they start again, but they don't build up year over year. It's always they start from zero, and wherever they go, they don't go fast because they end up counting numbers. Yes, there is the dollar side, but never they never go beyond to talk about the skills. Here was like a organization skills base. It is something that they cannot achieve until they start having this mindset and workforce planning rather than headcount, because as headcount always stop when the budget is approved and go to the board. It's like, yes, we'll track, but the discussion never, there is no room to elevate the discussion to go beyond the numbers to the value, or discussion about the value.
That's exactly right. You hit the nail on the head that this is how it happens in the organization, that they do cost planning, but they never think about the workforce planning. And there is a capability gap in the teams themselves to do that work. And so, can you tell and talk more about that? How do you bring the people along to say that you're doing something, what you're doing is missing something, because many times they don't know what they don't know, and they have a huge blind spot that they can be done, these things can be done better. So how do you help them shift the mindset that we need to enhance our capability to do something more?
First is the team build up. Workforce planning a multidisciplinary team. It's not finance, it's not HR. It goes beyond finance, HR. It includes IT, it includes marketing. That's the first thing. The second is, let's have a dream. If you're telling me, you know what, I want you to, I'm doing some kind of tracking headcount planning, and how to help me to go to workforce planning. Beyond the division and have the approval of organization, is how I build the team. Now we cannot have a vertical team, we cannot have a silo team. Workforce planning, it is not about one department. You have to have some matricial organization where finance do a part, and when finance finish, HR continue the conversation. What I'm trying to say is, the budgets is very important. It is there is a short period. I understand it's not the right time to talk about everything, because they do have to do other planning, the financial planning and everything, which is, you cannot have in this 3 first months of the year all the discussion in the table. But let's assume we work together with finance. As soon as we finish finance, HR take the lead and continue toward the year, which means on a quarterly basis go to the business and start engaging other conversation. Will not have hit the maturity the first year, but you know what, more often you go to the business and give them the space to talk about other elements of the workforce planning. When the coming cycle is coming, we are already somewhere else. We are already we are break this glass of this element of we have to stop and go back, like. And that's where I see the value is, like, build the team. Let's think about it, that it's go beyond HR and finance, and let's the sum of the parts, it's bigger than the part itself. And when finance finish, HR should take it and continue the conversation, rather than when finance is finished, everything it stops and let's see you next year.
And I also see what you're saying is that it's embedded in the business process or business rhythm. It is not outside of it. We are not doing it as a one stop, different process, which is not part of the business process. It should be very much embedded in that.
Definitely is the missile for me. It is, we were, and it's like there is some new field, AI, skills, but workforce planning is an all disciplinary that exists in the organization. I don't know, it's like more than me, I'm working on it, it's like more than 20 years. So let's say the last 40 years we talk workforce planning. But there is a rare organization that's build it in a way that they can have the value added, consistent value added. And the only way to have that is, it's a layer that's it's between the business and the human capital, and have to be, it is the main board. everything is connected to this workforce planning. It's like having an engine and the tire are separate. You need something to transfer the torque from the engine to the tires, and also you have to have senses that's in the tire to send it to the board. Otherwise, it's like it's synthetic. It will not survive a long time.
I was just wanting to double down on the point you're making, because what you're saying is it's all connected.
Definitely.
And and so you're saying, you've got finance here on one hand and HR on another. So could you just talk through about how you create some practical examples of connections, and some of the traps that you see organizations falling into?
The connection, the role and the responsibility for me when it's come, finance should manage the dollar side. Everything related to the headcount should be managed by HR. The separation of the two roles helps a lot the organization who to go to have this kind of discussions. One, and the two, a lot of the data related to the human capital sit in HR, which means finance they are limited. They cannot go beyond a certain type of discussion. They may use FTEs, they may use productivity, dollar average, but they are limited. But in HR, they have a ton of the data, meaningful the data that can help advance the discussion. For me, the trap is um, finance can go fast, but not go. They don't can go far, and HR sometimes they are stuck in the detail and they miss the big picture. But both together working together, they are complementary. If in the process we clearly where one start and one finish and who be the leader of this phase, for me is the first step, because it helps this complexity from the business, because business sometimes they don't know who to go to this discussion. Sometimes they talk this discussion in the quarterly meetings directed by finance and HR not there, or if they are there, they are not part of the discussion, which means they are just here to answer any question that finance cannot answer, rather than driving the discussion and bringing, talking about the value of the talent, all the challenge related to the human capital beyond I am over budget or under budget discussion.
And I think the point you're making, so you got the head count, but and you got the numbers and affordability, which is budget and allocating resources. But then human beings have skills, and so you need to make sure you got the right skills, and then that flows into talent acquisition. Because do you look internally? Do you have the skills internally? And if you don't, then do you either train it or do you hire for it? And or do you outsource it? And those kind of, how do you get to that point? And that's more holistic. And also the work. What work needs to be done, and what are the priorities for work, and how does that flow through? So and I think the metaphor you're using with the car is right. It's a system, and it all has to work together, and an organization's not dissimilar. And I'm just wondering, with all your experience, if you could maybe talk us through some case studies, so some examples maybe from your time in the airline industry or banking or whatever, just some examples.
I my where I the type of organization where I found that they are close to the ideal workforce planning is the transportation, both railroad and airlines, because they are competitive, and not having the right skills in the right time may cost you $500,000 a day. Not having the pilot ready for a flight, if one aircraft let in an average like a mid-size 3 hours flight is like $500,000 if it doesn't take off, and you may miss this opportunity because you are missing one pilot. $500,000 depends on the seniority of the pilot, and it is very the cost benefits is like the compounding effects is huge. That's why the workforce planning in this industries is very important. Unfortunately, it stays focused on some kind of workers, pilot, flight attendants, whatever, and it doesn't apply for all the organization. But what I did love on this organization, it is the three the three uh, the three key person always in the room. You will have always finance talking about the cost. You have always marketing talking about the revenue, and you have always a chart talking human capital. And there is a negotiation, a real negotiation. The arbitrate finance, and you have revenue marketing, and you have the human capital HR. And finance comes with, I have to cut 0 percentage point. Either you increase the revenue or you reduce cost, but I need to reduce. And here is the discussion. I give you that in this first quarter, and you give me that. And this discussion, it is tight. This experience that I liked most, it's because you can see the value added of workforce planning. You can see the return of investment, because wherever is decided in the room, it is what we will track toward the year. Yes, we will have a touch point, and always the same way. When we do a forecast, again, you have marketing with the revenue side, HR with the human capital, and finance is the arbit. And finance have one mandate. Somebody have to give. Sometimes it's the HR gives. When I say gives, it's like take whatever recommendation, go sit down with the business, tell them the situation. They are willing to increase the revenue, or they have this discussion. But it is HR driven. It is workforce planning driven. It's not a lot of interlocutor. It is one interlocutor to go to the business. That's my best experience, and I had it both in finance. In finance, in the banking industry, is a little bit different. Depends where what you're talking. If we're talking the branches, we have certain extent we are going to this kind of, but a lot of the banks are decentralized, which means the workforce planning are not centralized as, which mean you may have by country, by region, and sometimes you don't have this military pyramidal as you have in the airlines. It's like one group decide for all the organization. In finances, in the banking industry, is a little bit complex, but also they have the same. They are going through transformation. The market is challenging. The competition is there. You have the first line employees, the service level of each branch, the skills that you need in the bank. Both industries are I can see the value added of workforce planning, but definitely the transportation is the closest to the ideal workforce planning.
But what's interesting though, you've got this capacity, this capability to plan, probably very far into the future, and all sorts of different scenarios as you plan new routes and things like that. So on the one hand, you have that level of capability, but then not apply it to the rest of the workforce. It's just being applied to the direct workforce that help planes fly, and maybe the maintenance crews and things like that. So what's your hypothesis as to why that same thinking hasn't been applied to, call it, the non-direct
Yeah,
staff?
SGNA,
Workers.
right?
Yeah.
Yeah, sometimes it's at the risk. Is my hypothesis is the risk. It's like not having a pilot. You can see it in the news. You will hear about it when you have not having an aircraft grounded, but don't have the flight. You can hear about it. The other groups, maintenance and airport, they have their owns, but the frequency is not higher as the pilot and flight attendant. Flight attendant and the pilot, or the railroad, the driver, for the engineers in the railroad, it is constant discussion. It's like the board is asking, the executive are asking, do we have enough people? Because if we don't have the right, it's not something that you can hear about it outside the organization and other groups. It's the sensitivity about the risk impacting the operations. There is direct links of this organization. But for me, it's a missing opportunity, because it is a good framework. It's working. Um, the other part also, it is pilot and flight attendant work. It's heterogeneous group. It's easy to have when you talk engineer. It's different if you talk, and we start to it's a lot of skills, and you can start having small bucket of individual, and you lose this momentum when you are talking
Economies
pilot.
of scale,
Yeah,
almost.
Yeah, yeah. And I also feel that what you're highlighting, Badr, is risk of the business operation, but also to your point that you had mentioned earlier, it's all also connectivity to the revenue. You totally see that the revenue is missed out or revenue is enhanced when we have a workforce planning for that particular group, but we don't see that for support functions, enabling functions, and therefore it is difficult to do that. So I think that's a great nugget that I'm picking here is that many a times the workforce planning is a necessity in the organization when it is when the industry itself is asking for it, right? And I would push the boundaries to retail organizations as well, right? We need people on the shop floor. We need people in the bank to that part, to retail bank. And then it is a business necessity. And then if you translate that to, say, insurance or to other organizations which are slow growing or do not have that direct connection with the revenue, then it becomes like, just good to have, or people don't see that connection very often.
It's an interesting perspective because what it implies is if you can't quantify the risk of screwing up, then it's almost like you decide not to manage it. That's the implication. So I can understand that if I don't have the pilot that's costing $500,000 an hour or per flight, and then you say, okay, so we don't have enough people in our legal team, or we don't have enough people in the different professional services or in the FP&A team or whatever it might be. You don't understand. It's like it's fungible. So then you're saying, oh, the risk is not so great, so it's fine. So that then tells me that people aren't really understanding the impact of all the different roles and prioritizing that, right?
Yes, and not seeing
And
long term.
yeah,
Not seeing long
or
term. Yeah.
or it's not a board level risk. So if it's a board level risk, it gets managed. As soon as it doesn't appear on CNN, right? Then it's still a risk, but it's not board level. No one's going to get fired immediately. Oh, then we just tolerate it.
Yeah.
There's one of those two implications, I think.
I will add, what, and we are having it in another subject, the cost of attrition. Again, we always talk about the attrition have the cost, and because we have a hard time to quantify the value, because okay, let's do a quick explanation. The cost of attrition is the sum of a lot of costs that sometimes are spread in the organization. Some are in IT, sometimes in HR, and make it. But these pieces of the cost are when is 40% of the overall cost. The biggest part is the value of missing this employee sitting in this chair, and the value of this employee, because it's hard to quantify. That's why we are not, until now, we don't have a way to quantify the cost of attrition. Or when we talk about the cost of attrition, there is not a lot of organizations that track the cost of attrition because it's hard to quantify. And because it's hard to quantify, it's lose this criticality. But because we don't quantify, it doesn't mean it doesn't exist. And one of the example is the environment discussion. You remember, pollution was free because the community take the cost. As soon as we start putting the price on the pollution and the carbon, it starts to be very important. And that's what we're missing with the human capital, because we didn't the cost is there, we are aware about it, and what we didn't find a way, standardized way to quantify it. it, this lack of the quantification, it's hindering it, and starts like it's free or no impact. There is an impact, health and well-being. If let's say if the government say, you know what, going forward, I will put a blacklist of the organization that's a lot of employees are having a health issue related to work, and I will send you your bill. You will see the health, and will be start to be a strategic discussion. And because we cannot, and they spread, and with our budgets, most of the time it's not zero based budget, which means we take the budget of last year and we put incremental. We don't start from scratch. Wherever inefficiency we have, we just continue building on it.
That's great. I mean, that's a great point. And as you were talking about the cost of attrition, I'm just pushing the envelope further to say that we also don't track the cost of a bad hire in the workforce planning. And then that is also built in into the efficiency, and then that goes on into the system.
But transformation, but like, oh, here is what is the value added of transformation. Our organization just some industries like and transformations. It's like in a yearly basis. They go, if we don't have a way to say, okay, let's sit down, let's learn from the last one, how much it cost me, what is the value, did they see the benefits before us? It's like this piece, and that's what pushed me. Honestly, that's why pushed me to go beyond finance. That's what pushed me to, because when I was doing my quarterly review, doing my analysis for the journalist call, I can easily write a very good story when it comes to aircraft material maintenance, food in aircraft. But when it comes to the human capital, I was always feeling that I'm missing something. Yes, there is a behavior element that's not quantified in the financial model that can explain part of why 1 month I have a productivity, the same group, the same airline, I may have 25% more productivity 1 month versus the other. And what I did, it's just because the employees, they maximize what they have. Also the system, sometimes they want to work more because Christmas is coming, sometimes they don't work less. Their choice. But that's what pushed me to go beyond finance, to see is there is another way to quantify the value of the human capital.
Very cool. Very cool. Um, I also would like to understand that what then motivated you to start your own organization? Because being in a corporate or being in the organization itself gives you such an amazing playground to connect the dots, to continue to optimize. So there's always a need in the organization for a skill set like yours, and you can just continue to add immense value. What was the motivation behind leaving the corporate world and starting your own organization or your own company?
um, Continue learning. I i i felt that's I'm when I, most of the time you move from an organization, you might have a training 2 years, 3 years, everything's new, you are learning. A certain time you start to reach a plateau, and the speed of change is not faster enough for where I want to. And because workforce planning, people analytics is a new field, I found the only way uh, to continue working is to be in, sorry for the word, is precarity, force precarity on myself, to be always on attached to the markets, always catching the latest trend, always to be. That's that's what pushed me to go this journey. It's challenging, but at the same time, it's fulfilling, because uh, AI, I don't, I use it. It's not, I leverage it. I see the value. I see the risk. If I was an organization, maybe it will take me a lot of time, because I have to wait until the organization approve whatever the AI. And it's like the learning journey. It is amazing for me. But again, it is a risky path, and but I it's worth it. It's worth it.
Nice.
Very
Well
cool.
said. Being an entrepreneur so you can learn more. I think it's
Definitely,
no
definitely.
higher cause. So, but unfortunately, we're we're reaching that point of the show, where we're running out of time, as Morpheus said in The Matrix, time is always against us. Just wondering, one tool that you think would be helpful for our listeners to take away, something they could apply tomorrow, and one trap that they should, word to the wise with all your experience, one thing to avoid.
I like visualization. For me, if I am junior and I want to learn, I will ask myself to start with visualization. There is a complexity, simplicity in the visualization that help you summarize, and also it go beyond the word. You can have other way to bring insight. Uh, for me, if rather than knowing, if I have to, yes, Excel or Python or R or language, but at the end, if somebody excel in the visualization, data visualization, for me it is a nugget that will help a lot, because executive like short condensed content, and somebody who knows to tell the story with visualization, data visualization, it will be a good win. The the challenge is, for me, if there is a risk or trap I want to avoid, is this perfection. Don't be afraid. I don't perfection doesn't exist. It just hold you up. And sometimes just start, learn what you have, do the mistake. I like the cycle of short, uh, apply, learn, enhance, rather than go 3 month thinking in the room, and it's in your head, and just go wherever you have what you have and learn from it. Definitely you will reach your objective faster than looking for perfection.
So iteration over striving for perfection, and iteration will actually get you there faster.
And independently the subjects, either learning something new or tackling a subject. If I'm doing a presentation for executive, I will not sit 3 months or 6 months in the room thinking about. I will quickly extract the first version, go sit down with them, take their collection. This iteration is the key. Me, I was thinking at the beginning, coming from academic university where masters, it's like this academic, I have to be perfect the first. No, it doesn't exist.
Yeah. And isn't the part of the sort of the bigger trap of the leaders is how they treat failure? Because if you treat failure badly, then people have to get it right first time, and therefore you can't iterate. So that to me is as much cultural as process.
I agree. And I would say that for workforce planning, what I have also experienced is that you cannot be counting every digit, every dot. It is like, it has to be directionally correct. It
Definitely.
has to be 80/20. It has to be at the high level. It should be right. But if we start going into the weeds, that why one person is extra in that location, or why 3 people are missing in that particular job family, then it starts to lose the meaning of it. So
Definitely.
I think that's a brilliant way to summarize what you have been sharing with us around workforce planning, and your approach towards it. So, Badr, this was fantastic. Thank you so much for
Thanks a lot.
being on our show and sharing your journey with us. And I'm sure our listeners are going to take a lot of golden nuggets today, and I did for sure.
Thank you for
Rupert,
this
thank
opportunity.
you.
Thanks a lot. Thanks a lot.
Thank you,
Thank you,
Badr.
but Shradha, always a pleasure. Thanks,
Always,
everyone.
Rupert. Thank you.
Unpacking Organizations, the Practitioners Podcast. Sponsored by Orgvue.